Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Podcast number 8. My name is Mark Devlin. I'm your host for this evening, along with our co-hosts, Naill Fraser and David Griffiths. Naill, what have we got for us tonight?
Tonight I'll be talking with Jamie Blackett about the blatant SNP power grab in which they're seeking to make COVID laws permanent.
And David, what have you got?
And I will be talking about Mike Russell's independence bill and the utter confusion that has arisen.
And I will be asking the big question, has devolution failed? So we'll be right back in a second to talk all about that. As always, we start every week's episode with a big thank you to our donors. They made this possible through crowdfunding for the equipment and crowdfunding for a weekly cost for hosting and so on. If you'd like to become a donor, please do so at the Majority page, as we have a donate page there. And there's a link usually underneath the broadcast on YouTube, and we'll put them on Twitter and Facebook, where this broadcast is going out. So tonight, now you usually say something.
Yes, of course. You can supercharge our broadcast this evening by clicking that share button on all the mediums. Load up a tab on Facebook, load up a tab on Twitter, share them all. Make sure we're getting it to as many people as possible, and get the comments in right and early, and we'll start reading them out. I see there's already a couple comments filtering in. Beautiful stuff.
Yes, a comment there from Linda Ross. Good evening, good evening to you. And we've already got some preempting of discussion from Kevin, who's said devolution has, but we're not there yet. We'll be coming to that in a second. So please subscribe if you can. We do have our first point. Has devolution failed? Now, this week we saw this interesting a few days ago. We saw this interesting article here that there was a deeply worrying economic divergence between Scotland and the rest of the UK. Now, what is this divergence about? It means that the Scottish Fiscal Commission, could almost not say that, a cross-party report by the Scottish Fiscal Commission basically said that there was evidence of Scotland's economic underperformance that was deeply worrying, and that low wages, poor productivity, and changing demographics and income tax receipts could, if they come to pass, put Scotland's financial sustainability at risk. This is just one in a long line of problems that we've seen with the devolution. And now we're getting to the point where our economic results are worse than the rest of the UK. What do you think about that now?
I mean, it's why has it taken all this time to get to this point? Why has it taken all this time to get to the point where we would find out that, oh yes, economically we're would be up a creek without a paddle. And
okay, we have I mean, some of the problems which should have been obvious from the beginning. If the nationalist government feeds on division and basically economic, it's not political uncertainty. So we have this situation where companies don't want to invest in Scotland, for example. Here's Paul Sweeney, who is Labour MSP, I believe. And he said, I met with Rolls-Royce last week to ask if there was any prospect of a Scottish bid for 200 million investment in a new heavy pressure vessel factory. They told me they had ruled out Scotland due to Scottish government opposition to civil nuclear energy. What a missed opportunity. This isn't just a single thing. There is many, many examples of this. David?
Yeah, I mean, this to me highlights exactly what we've all feared. The fact is that devolution has cost an enormous sum. I think you've said here that it's £2 billion sum based on the annual cost of 100 million a year. For what? What exactly is it giving us? And the idea of giving more powers, Devo Max, or even what they term independence, be absolute lunacy. We can't do it. We cannot do it. We cannot condemn Scotland to an economic disastrous future, which would, without question, arise should any of these crazy plans come to fruition. And it's bad enough as it is, we know that, but at least we've got Westminster to assist right now. Without that safety net, I truly fear for Scotland's future, for the future, the economic prospects for future generations. I know, in fact, that we would be immeasurably worse off on every level. I think that, yes, that we have to look at whether it's even worth carrying on with devolution as it stands, without question.
Well, I was looking at this just actually before we came on. It was the Scottish budget 2021 to 2022, and I thought the costs of running the Parliament were 100 million. But when you actually look down here, it says here Scottish Government operating costs. The total operating cost of budget for Scottish Government is 604 million.
Oh,
0.1% of the overall Scottish budget. I mean, so basically 600 million is costing to run this. And if you multiply that by however many years, perhaps it was lower in the past, you come to an absolutely enormous sum. And the question I think in everyone's mind is, what has devolution done for us?
yes.
So let's say we have some reader comments here. And Smith says, yes, it's failed miserably. What has Sturgeon done with all the billions from Westminster? She's not sharing the money around councils, so things are tight for them. Well, this is a good point. And the question we asked on Twitter today, the budget from Westminster is going up all the time, yet councils are being squeezed all the time. Where is that extra money going? And there was some discussion on that original article I mentioned, was that the government is, basically the government is taking this money out. If you see that 600 million is taken out of the budget just to run it, it seems quite shocking to me.
Absolutely right.
Just on a wee sidetrack, while we're talking about the economic situation in Scotland, we're refusing new facilities for nuclear reactors and just lots of different industries. Almost, I think it's over half of Scots are on some form of benefits.
Yes.
That needs to come down drastically if we're ever going to survive. We wouldn't survive 5 minutes on our own. So much people on benefits that would be sunk almost instantaneously.
I guess there's two sides to that. There's a lot of people on benefits, but there's not enough taxpayers, and that's what this article was actually about.
Precisely,
right.
That's where it was going, Mark. We need someone fighting to get these industries into Scotland in order to bring the benefit deficit down.
And you mentioned it there. No sensible business will look to set up in an operation in a place where the political climate is uncertainty, because markets and businesses detest uncertainty. They're terrified of uncertainty. And nowhere in Europe, frankly, is the political climate as uncertain as it is in Scotland, because we've got these...
Not only
unsettled,
unsettled,
I mean, do we really want to be comparing ourselves with countries like that? I mean, you think about a multinational... I've got friends who work in multinational companies at a high level, and you can imagine their discussions. They say, all right, we're going to put a new factory or a new distribution centre, a new something in Scotland, and then someone puts their hand up at the board meeting and says, well, what happens in a few years when there's a hard border, or there might be a hard border, or the currency is different, and then we don't have access to that market anymore, the 50 million, 50 or 55 million, or whatever it is. And, anyone's just going to say that. And another thing we always say is, it just takes one executive to put their hand up and say, well, I'm going to be taxed more up there.
Yep.
Why would I even bother, going there? So that's a big challenge. Back in the 80s, we had I remember, I was studying engineering, and we always used to go and visit factories and stuff. And there was this whole idea of Silicon Glen, and that all these companies were coming into Scotland to set up and do cool new technologies and so on. You never hear any of that anymore. It's
gone with the wind.
I'm afraid so.
And as long as this SNP government's in power, it won't return.
Now, another part of this is just this. We did a poll of our readers, and this was the result they got from there. Has devolution failed?
I think it's a resounding result.
1,700 votes in that one, and are completely unscientific, but indicative Twitter poll. And I think there's a widespread feeling that devolution has failed. Now, what the solution to that is a different matter. Some are calling for the Scottish Government to be abolished, some are calling it to be fixed, some are calling for more power to be put to local authorities. But we all know there is a problem. And as we said, I think last week, when Boris said devolution is a disaster, we were, I think everyone on the ground was like, yes, at last someone is saying that. And then, of course, Scots Tories were like, oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. That's not the thing you should be saying. But that's exactly what you should be saying. We should be saying this has been a disaster, and we need to start thinking about how we can improve it or how we can do something about it.
We need to make it very easy for companies to come up and set up bases in Scotland, or especially engineering firms and all that stuff. The fact that just last week we were talking about the offshore wind farms and the jobs going abroad, it's just again indicative of this.
Here's Ryan Lockwood. He
clueless
said
government
is incompatible with the unitary state. Period. Either the devolved assemblies are abolished, or the United Kingdom runs the gauntlet of destruction. Well, I don't think it's quite as dramatic as that. I think there are shades in between. Easy solutions are. It's easy to say, "I just abolish something," and it might come to that. But I think there are possibly other remedies, and that's a good thing for us to discuss as we go forward. So let me see. Yeah, some people do say that the system. Well, I'm going to go contradict myself here. Some people say, well, maybe it's the system is the system is fine, but the nationalists are the problem. And I would say to that generally that if you built a system where it can be hijacked by nationalists and
then it's not a great system in the first place.
Then the system really isn't very good at all.
Indeed.
So we have going to move on, and we will take more of your comments. Coming up next, Jamie Blackett is going to join us to discuss the SNP COVID power grab, and we hope we'll have a good discussion there. Let's go for this one. Okay, now we have on the line Jamie Blackett.
Oh, Jamie.
Welcome, Jamie. Can you see us all?
Evening, all. Can you hear me?
Evening, Jamie, yes.
We got you there. And Jamie is the co-chairman of Alliance for Unity and regular columnist for The Telegraph, where his article on SNP power grab appeared today. And he's been talking mainly with Naill in this segment.
Okay, so today we're talking about the SNP power grab as if we couldn't have predicted that the already desperately power-hungry SNP would very much like to hold on to draconian pervasive COVID laws. I'm reminded of the phrase, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government measure. And as if the Scottish people hadn't suffered enough. Really. In the same week that England is ditching the masks, they're ditching the restrictions, we are seeking to retain these powers, to lock you down. So, Jamie, I read your article today in The Telegraph. Thanks very much for that. It was beautiful. Can you give us some insight into this?
Well, I think this has been brewing for some time. I mean, they started consultation, if you remember, back in August. And I think I was possibly one of a number of people who took part in that and said it was a very bad idea. They seem to have ignored the consultation. I believe most of the responses they had were negative, and are now pushing on with this extraordinary bill to force through legislation that would really actually make the Scottish Parliament redundant. I mean, if the executive, i.e. the Scottish government, could lock people down, close schools, release prisoners early, interfere with judicial processes like trial by jury and trial over the internet rather than face to face, that sort of thing. I mean, if they can do that without being scrutinized by parliamentarians, then I mean, what is the point of having Holyrood? If they can really do that, have lockdowns. I mean, this is what they're asking for. They're asking for permanent powers to do all this without actually going to Parliament to ask for it. And I think you have to ask yourself, I mean, if this was being asked for in Westminster, if Boris Johnson was forming up to the MPs in Parliament and saying, right, well, this has all been terrific, this COVID response we've had. We need to make these measures permanent now so that, we can lock down whenever we want. We can close schools if we need to. We can impose masks and that sort of thing. I think he'd be laughed out of court by his own party, let alone the opposition.
Yeah.
I can't
absolutely
believe
right.
that there would be a Tory MP who would go along with this, and yet here we have presumably enmity amongst all the separatist parties, all the SNP, MSPs, and the Greens, the Scottish Greens. I haven't heard any dissenting voices. Maybe there are. They all appear to be going along with this. And
have you had any words with people in the, like, say, Conservative hierarchy, as it were, about this power grab, or is there?
No, I haven't. I mean, the Telegraph got hold of me this morning and said, would I do a piece on it? And it was all rather short notice, and I didn't have a lot of time to do much research, and I don't know what the Scottish Tory party or indeed the Tory party, the UK Tory party is planning to do about this. I mean, Murdo Fraser made a speech. Starting, I thought, fatally with the words, whilst some of these measures might be sensible or something, which
pulled the
yes,
start with defeat
underneath his argument straight away. But I mean, he did go on to denounce the power grab, as did Jackie Baillie for Labour, and I think Alex Cole-Hamilton for the Liberals. I mean, the opposition parties are all queuing up to say, this is wrong, but of course, they're completely impotent. They're powerless. I mean, they could all vote against it, but the SNP with gardening section, the Greens, have enough of a majority at Holyrood to do this. And once they've got these powers, they will never
relinquish them. Never,
why would they? I mean, the only way.
And this is after the flipping. Sorry to jump in. It's after the flipping and impulsive move to lock us down over Christmas in Hogmanay based on pure whim. So I don't expect it to be used in a constructive way. These powers. And it's strange coming from the party that screams freedom and independence as well.
True.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing, I haven't been through it all with a fine-tooth comb, but it doesn't appear to actually define what an emergency is. It just says, emergency powers.
I think as Ryan said at the beginning,
it could be.
Those powers.
It could be a bad dose of the flu. They could say, right, we've lots of flu cases. You're all confined to barracks until further notice. And this is nuts. In any other democracy in the world, the media would be going berserk, and parliamentarians would be jumping up and down and saying, this is wrong. And I think there are it's scary if you look around the world. There are a lot of very authoritarian people. You look at Ardern in New Zealand recently announcing that people are going to have to isolate for 24 days after a positive test. I think she said. I mean, these are all sort of arbitrary things. We're living in scary times, and I don't want to sort of go into all these sort of conspiracy theories of the World Economic Forum and all that nonsense. But you do begin to wonder what the hell is going on. I mean, we are living in completely bizarre times, and I don't know. I really don't know how we deal with this. I mean, the opposition parties in Parliament will go through the motions of the Punch and Judy show and jumping up and down and saying this is wrong, and then presumably they'll just have a vote, and hey presto.
Yeah.
Well, one would think that if any of these, if any of these rights were impinged by, or UK rights were impinged by these regulations or new laws, that the UK government would be able to come in and say, no, let's strike it down. But we don't see any of that, and there doesn't seem to be any route for citizens to do that at all. It seems that these laws can get passed by the Scottish government basically with impunity, and we're getting to the point where people in Scotland have far less rights than the rest of the UK, and that's really something that it's kind of worrying, because we should have the same rights as other people. I know we can pay different taxes and stuff like that, so it may be fair enough to some extent. If you want better local services, pay for them. But the rights, your rights to do things, shouldn't be abridged.
I mean, it's sadly, it's so predictable that this was going to happen. It's so predictable. The SNP have already got a track record of consolidating power, like centralising public services, the police, and etc., stuff like that. But this is a huge red flag for a lot of people. Especially, again, after the flippant and impulsive move to lock us down over Christmas that crippled businesses that were just beginning to find their feet.
Here we have James Slater, who from Facebook is saying a huge mistake to allow the devolved assemblies to initiate their own response to the pandemic. The UK government should have overruled this ludicrous situation. I think we're all in agreement.
Could not agree more, James. Indeed. Four nations approach.
Not have been a four nations approach. So I think we're pretty good. Thank you very much, Jamie, for you coming on board to chat with us today. This is the first time we've ever had a guest on the show. I think it's worked out quite well. And
thanks for fighting the good fight, Jamie. Thank you.
Absolutely great to see you, Jamie. Genuinely.
Thanks for the article, and we hope to see you again fairly soon. We're going to move on to the next section. Great, thank you. Take care.
All the best, Jamie.
Thank you.
Right, well, that was good. That went quite well.
Brilliant.
Next up, we're going to be doing David's section, so we'll get back to this.
Yes.
Okay, David, you introduce it. No, first you want to watch the video. Is that what you want to do?
Let's have a little look at the video. That would be good. This is a video showing Mike. This our SNP's esteemed president, Bromley Mike Russell, being asked a question about his independence bill. Take it away, Mike.
Okay.
First stage of that is to get a bill through Holyrood or onto the floor at Holyrood. Let's just look at the mechanics of this. A body of people called the Scottish Law Officers have to approve a bill before it even gets onto the floor of the Parliament. They have to make sure it's competent and it's going to be worth parliamentary time. Have they approved this bill? Because you put a draft bill together, didn't you, before the elections?
I only dealt with the draft bill. I mean, I stress for the benefit of yours and yourself, I'm not a member of the government, I'm not a member of the Parliament. But, we believed at that time that such a bill would gain that approval and it would be able to enter the Parliament. But of course, the moment of challenge to a bill comes after it is passed. That is the system that we have. So at that moment, the UK government could say that it didn't believe the bill was within the competence of the Parliament and wished to take action against it. That would be taking action not just against the Parliament, but against the people of Scotland who voted for a government and for a Parliament that will, I believe, have passed that bill.
But isn't the
That's
first
a very,
hurdle
very serious situation.
But isn't the first hurdle the Scottish law officers? I mean, it's pretty clear under the 1998 Scotland Act that constitutional matters are reserved to Westminster. This would be the Scottish Parliament exceeding its powers. Couldn't the Scottish law officers just say, look, it just doesn't pass?
Martin, you're not a law officer, and neither am I. So I think what you've just said is your opinion. It's not. And of course, we will wait to see what the opinion of the law doesn't require, of course, presiding officer approval.
I think we've seen quite enough there.
Indeed. So let's just summarise what we've just heard. This is, and frankly, an astonishing revelation from Bromley Mike Russell. I call him Bromley Mike Russell because he was born and raised in Bromley in Kent. Guys, that's not just an insult, he actually was. When he was asked there, has your referendum bill, the bill which you piloted through Holyrood, has it received the approval of law officers in order to allow it to be presented at Holyrood? And you heard all that bluster and nonsense there. Oh, you're not a law officer and neither am I. All this nonsense. So it's clear that Mike has been asked and won't answer the question because the law officers would unquestionably reject the bill. Now, as a reminder,
is that exactly true? Because the law officers basically have been hired. For example, Dorothy Bain is the current. What do you call? I can't remember the name of the person.
Is it Advocate General or something like that?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And so she has been put in that position. She's chosen for that position. The position is part of Sturgeon's cabinet. She was chosen by Sturgeon. So it's highly unlikely that Sturgeon would have chosen her if she wasn't going to pass that, say the bill was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, but what we're saying there, I mean, I agree with the premise of what you're saying, but what we're saying there is effectively the judiciary is in the pocket of the Parliament. Now, that's the sort of stuff that Cromwell, back in the whatever century it was, said, this can't go on. We've got to stop this. Parliament has to have its own integrity. So does the law. You can't have lawyers, the nation's most senior legal people, acting at the behest of the First Minister. You just cannot have that. So now Mike knows that this is the case. Martin Geisler, for one, stuck to his guns. He tends to get overridden a little bit, but he said, well, look, it's quite clear this is a reserved matter. Isn't that the case? Surely they're going to reject this and going to say that, no, you're exceeding your power. No, I don't know about that. No, didn't handle you. Well, he does know, Bromley Mike does know this because he was SNP Constitution Minister right from when they took power in Scotland in 2007, right up to 2014, when the independence referendum took place. He actually was involved more than anyone else in the drawing up of the white paper, which makes it clear that these constitutional matters are reserved, yet now he feigns ignorance. And this has all come from Ian Smart's Twitter account. He did terrific work highlighting this week. So what this highlights to me is there are blatant lies lying at the heart of all SNP pronouncements and all SNP beliefs. They want an independence referendum, but they won't even follow the necessary process to request a referendum, far less be granted one. So that's the doldrums in which they are.
It's simple logic, isn't it? If they had the approval of the law officers, they'd be shouting it from the rooftops.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
Indeed. Yeah.
So this is the thing we see all the time. You say to people, "Well, we haven't asked them." You're like, "Well, you
should have asked them ages ago." Right?
Wouldn't that have been an idea? Yes, exactly.
It's about like, I don't know. I'm not going to say an example because I haven't thought one in advance. But it's if you were in a large company and you say we're going to sell this product, and you say, well, you go to the lawyers and say one of the first things you go and say, is this legal to sell in this country? It's all a bit like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're saying they've been going. I mean, not only that. How many years has this been going? 80 years, or whatever it is, right? So, and let's just say in its latest iteration since 2014,
yes,
they've not been able to come up with a law officer, a legal opinion that they can say, here's the legal opinion we've got. Dorothy Bain drew this thing up and so on. That means it's possible.
Well, it's very true. And the same as with the SNP keep talking about this material change, which is the Scotland, or the UK rather, leaving the European Union. And they are now terming this the material change, which apparently Sturgeon said must be a trigger for a second independence referendum. Okay, well, so you didn't like quite, so they didn't want to leave the EU, but they're now it's now predicated on Scotland becoming independent is that they must be able to have the facility to join the EU. But if you ask them about, okay, how have you had any discussions about jumping the queue or being allowed in or meeting the entry criteria? Again, they don't say a word about it. Now, that would be question number one you would ask, and exactly as you say, Mark, they would be trumpeting it.
Definitely a thing where you say, okay, we're going to get back. They say we're going to get back in the EU. You say, well, okay, where's the document from the EU that says you get back?
And they say, quite, yeah.
And no one's even asking the fundamental question. That is not independence at all.
Absolutely,
that's divorcing
correct.
one union and joining and marrying another.
Well, we're not.
That's what it is.
You're not necessarily a union. That's that we had that discussion before.
I know what you're saying. Yes,
It's not
one
a union.
country,
It's not a union. It's a narrative that pushed by.
Well, breaking up a country to join
broken up.
Absolutely, that's what it is. They seek to break up the country.
As for the material change, I was puzzled about this for a while. I was like, material change? What is this about? And then I started looking it up, and because the Nationalists, they say, well, we're going to. There's been a material change with Brexit, so we need a new referendum. And you look back at the referendum or Scotland, the Edinburgh Agreement, and all that. It doesn't say on it.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't say, you can have another referendum if there's a material change, especially Brexit. It just doesn't say that. It's not on there. There is no material change. And if you look back through the news, you see who invented this idea of the material change. Well, wait a minute. It was Nicholas
They
Sturgeon.
did, obviously.
Well, what a surprise, yeah.
Chancers. Utter chancers.
Chancers, yeah. So she says, well, you can't. We need a new referendum because there's been a material change. Well, who said there was a material change? Oh, I did.
Quite exactly. But I mean, hilariously, Mark, when you ask nationalists and separatists online to say, okay, so you feel that there's been a material change, Brexit, you think there's been a disaster, and Scotland must be able to join the EU. Is that right? Okay, so what's your timetable? They'll always answer, well, it's an option for us. We don't have to rejoin the EU. It'd be nice, but we don't have to. Hang on, well, it's not a material change then. If you're saying you don't even care about rejoining, ludicrous. But I mean, Russell there pulled out a line which Sturgeon often uses, which is, we have a mandate. We were voted in by the electorate. Well, let's look into that just for a second. In the 2019 general election, the SNP's manifesto pledge was vote SNP to keep Boris Johnson out of 10 Downing Street and to stop Brexit. Well, they got the majority of people in Scotland voting for them, but none of that stuff happened. So eventually people are going to realise in Scotland, what is the point in voting for these people? They never do what they say. They can't now cherry pick bits of what they stood for and say, we have a mandate because we said it in our manifesto. They said an awful lot of other things in the manifesto which never come to pass. So my honest belief is, not only are the Scottish electorate becoming fed up with being lied to by this woman, this bizarre, odd woman, increasingly peculiar woman, she is herself showing clear signs of, the way Margaret Thatcher was in her final days, getting very snappy when she's questioned, looking tired, getting questions wrong, very, very irritable.
Careful, Mark, you might... careful, David. You might delve into the whole menopausal argument there. I don't want to stick my foot in it, but
for today,
absolutely. But this
on online.
Indeed, but my view is, and it's simply my view, it's not based on anything. I cannot see Nicola Sturgeon taking the SNP into into another election. I just don't think
you're not the only one who says that. And for example, often when you talk about the mandate, when they say we've got a mandate and it was in our manifesto, then I often put up a thing from Wings of Scotland where he says, well, the Tories have a manifesto as well, and they have a mandate. They have a mandate to keep the UK together, and they have the power to reject an S30. And if they reject it, there's no pain for them in doing that. And in fact, I've got this little clip here from Reverend Stu, who is
Wings,
who is basically saying who liked free money. Basically, he's saying if there isn't an Indy ref by 31st of December 2024, he's going to give you 150 if you give him 100. I think that's a bit weak. You should give him a little bit more than that. But, so, I mean, that's how much he thinks there's going to be a referendum. And I think most of the people who are in the know, as it were, don't can see that there's not going to be a referendum. But the problem is the media and the politicians, the media are doing these politicians' jobs for them, basically saying it creates page views for them and it creates money for them, and they're profiting of it. I'll say we're profiting from division, and it has to really stop, especially the Times, which I'm going to come on to in a little bit. So yeah, it's I think this thing that if they had a way to get a second referendum, they would be screaming it from the rooftops. Instead, when we counter them on Twitter, they say, "Oh, it's hidden," or "It's you'll find out and later." You're like, "No, that's not how it works." If you had a plan, that plan would be we'd see it. You'd be shouting it all the time.
Quite
Here,
right.
we have a thing from Max. Is that I can't really see this.
That's me.
May much. Nicola Sturgeon said the day before the 2019 election that she understood not all votes for the SNP were a vote for independence. In fact, that's very true.
That's true.
Yet the day after, she said all votes were a vote for independence. We have a mandate. So she of course, she didn't
Classic.
She knew exactly what she was doing.
Yep.
She said a vote for vote for me. Not a vote for me is not a vote for independence.
That's
and then,
right.
Right. Just this past few weeks, she's been banging on about independence. We've got a mandate. We've got all this kind of stuff. Well, they don't have the power to get an S30, and they don't have a legal opinion. And just a final thing, I think I might say on that is that one of the things that's important in this exchange with Russell and Martin Geisler, I think, is that where Geisler tries to pin him down on that's the law officers.
Yes, it's opinion. Yep.
That
It delves into
means
opinion.
that can be challenged by the public in the Court of Session in Scotland. So basically, if this law officer, Dorothy Bain, says, right, okay, I think there is a case for this bill to pass, then that can be challenged through a judicial review, where she will have to provide the evidence and backing that says that law is that referendum bill, or her decision on the referendum bill, is well founded. And I think that is going to be a big challenge for them. So I think there's multiple groups right now who are gearing up to crowdfund and to fight at this level. And the last thing that the nationalists want is a hard stop, right? Where somebody says, no, you can't get this. Up until now, they can just kind of say, oh, we're going to go for an S30. We're going to do a referendum bill. We're going to kind of do this. And they can drag it out as long as they like. But as soon as they get a hard stop, it's over. So they'll try and avoid that as much as they can. But certainly Sturgeon will. I think she's smart enough to do it. She'll leave most likely, and then the next person who comes in will have a valiant attempt at it, and it'll be dead. So
just look at some of the comments coming in. Some great comments. Keep them up, guys. Nicola Sturgeon is rubbish. Kelly Goodsir, I've got a feeling in Holyrood the SNP and the Green MPs have sitting jobs, just the same as MPs accused in Westminster. I think they're lobbying, same as them. What do you think?
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure they do.
Coming.
It's just a gravy train, really. I think for many of them, and it's easy money, easy to get. All right, I think we've done that one a little bit, so we shall move on to. Oh, wait a minute! What's coming up next?
What is coming up next, Mark?
Yes, it could be. Well, we just had you, David, so we'll start with Naill this time.
All right, so my Zoomer of the week, it is going to Nicola Sturgeon, unfortunately. I know, it's an easy pick, but hear me out. I mean, this, for me, the lockdown restrictions shouldn't have been implemented in the first instance, not at all. If you were to ask me, I wouldn't have locked in for a single solitary day. I would have left it up to the public, and they've all got brains. They can decide for themselves. But to hold on cynically to these powers it just exemplifies Nicola Sturgeon and her time in government. It really does. Utterly power hungry. In my belief, she's corrupt to the core. We still don't know where Peter Murrell is. We still don't know where £600,000 is. She's got to be the Zoomer of the week. Got to be.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll get some comments from our our viewers on that. Obviously, it's a bit of a, let's say, an easy target.
I did say it was an easy pick. It really is an easy pick for me.
Right. Okay. Did you have any alternates?
Alternates. Well, actually, I seen David's one, and I was partial to
Let him
David's
do
one, to be fair.
let him do
So
his.
I'll let him
Here we go.
bring in his
One
first.
body says got to
His
be one
one's fantastic.
Yes, I'm very surprised that this gentleman, I use that term very loosely, hasn't been nominated previously, because he is clearly wild to a Mars bar, as they say. He's not the full ticket at all. I talk of none other than Sean Clerkin of the Scottish Resistance. I'm not sure if he's still suspended from Scottish Resistance for his derogatory comments against English people last year. But Sean Clerkin, for those of you who don't know, there are these guys, very unkempt-looking guys, who style themselves the Scottish Resistance. These are the same people who went into a police station in Rutherglen to report an international war crime, and they tried to get David Cameron arrested by a bobby in Rutherglen. You know,
Oh no!
Honestly, so this is what they did. So to mark Burns Night, Sean, with his good Scottish name there, decided that he would burn some Union flags in Bannockburn. I mean, how much play in the word burn do you need there, Sean? So this is what he did. So to me, this is just the act of someone who is in need of help, frankly, and is in need of counselling, because you don't burn flags. You don't use the name, the occasion of Burns Night to make some idiotic puerile pun on burning and then light a fire with the national emblem of the country. So, I mean, this guy is clearly there for comedy value only.
What a great comment to go along with that one.
Yeah.
Read that one out.
The Scottish Resistance being sent to Ukraine to assist. Fantastic, yeah. Sure, will sort them out in no time. Yeah, what a great idea. Yeah, so
they did a video last year, where he set fire to the flag before, and they couldn't get it to go in fire, and it's just it's like you couldn't actually make a comedy like it. It's just so out there
and why is there two people? I thought it was a big event. They were going to set up a big event. They were going to burn the flag, and in the picture I see two people.
Two people turned up. Well, that's part of the course for Scottish Resistance. So it's just these people are just not to be taken seriously at all. But I thought I'd give them a little bit of belated, not recognition as such, but just a little bit of ridicule, because I think that's the best way to deal with people like that. Just ridicule them.
Someone should do one of those things. I saw that the deep fake with his face on it. Of Keith Flint, doing the Firestarter.
Yes,
I mean, that would just be the thing for there. I mean, these people are. I respect their right to protest. It's fair enough. It's just a bit daft, really.
Yep.
It's if you're going to protest, get people together and at least have a big fire or something. I don't know. It seems very, very, very minor.
Indeed.
Well, I'm going to complain as usual about the media. So
Brilliant.
My thing is going to be for Fiona Rintoul, who's a commentator in the Times. We have this here. I'll bring it up. Oh, here is the article. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that part there. Scotland's voice should be heard on Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
That's just absolutely ridiculous.
So I said that's another embarrassing article from the Times Appeasement Division.
Yes.
I mean, you have to read this article. It's a bit like someone took a bunch of hallucinogenic drugs, and then they watched, Russia Today for a while or something like that. It's really nutty. It's just completely. It goes off on all these tangents about the links between Scotland and Russia, and it's utterly nonsense, because ultimately the thing is, why should Scotland's voice be heard on Ukraine when you compare it with, say, Cornwall's or the Kingdom of Fife? That's what
Fife
Fife should be heard on Ukraine. No disrespect to Fifers, but I mean that's the
big
kind
up the
of
Fifers.
level,
Big up the Fifers.
That's the kind of level we're at. We have a national government, UK government, has to deal with foreign affairs, and the Scottish government has no power at all whatsoever on reserved matters. It doesn't have anything to do with defence. And in fact, there was another article in the Times again from another part of the appeasement division by Alex Massey. And this was the same. Unionists should welcome the SNP growing up, which is an article all about this guy MacDonald. I can't remember his first name right now. And he is supposed to be the expert, Scottish expert on Ukraine, and why the Unionists should welcome that this one single nationalist is somehow got a voice about Ukraine. You're like, well, wait a minute, we've got a defence secretary, we've got a whole defence ministry, we've got the whole machinery of the UK government which is dealing with this all the time, and we're supposed to listen to this guy just so that unionists can grow up. So this is the thing. It defies belief, and I wonder, when I saw this Rintoul article, the first one there, I was like, the editor actually allowed this to be printed, because I've been an editor. I published 700 issues of a magazine, and I'd run a news site, and you look at things that come in, and you're like, I mean, if I got that in, I would just be like, just WTF? Just what the hell is this?
I would be up for Nicola Sturgeon going and trying to quell the situation in the Ukraine. If we just send her personally, I'm sure she would fix it within 5 minutes.
Absolutely right.
She walks on water, the woman. Chief Mammy can just go and fix it.
I didn't thought about that, actually.
Why isn't she reached it?
Like an angel over, the angel of peace.
Yes, indeed.
And she could be standing the border between Ukraine and Russia and be like, "I'm here for peace today," and what nonsense, load of nonsense.
Surrounded by SPADs, special advisors,
Yes,
telling
exactly.
her, handing her bits of paper. Say this, Nicola. Say that. No.
And then the arrogance to think that
Maybe Peter Mull's over there.
What's that?
Maybe Peter Mull's over there.
Right, yeah. The arrogance to think that Putin is going to be listening to the Scottish Parliament.
Absolutely right.
The absolute arrogance of it. Or to listen to one Scottish MP or one Scottish commentator. Oh, we listen to Scotland. Scotland's the one that's going to stop this war or whatever it is, this conflict that's happening. It's off this charts delusional. It has no place. This is a message to you, Magnus, who's the editor of the Times. You are, I met you. You seem to be a nice guy. Well, why are you putting this crap in your paper? It is just rubbish. And please, it's an insult to your readers' intelligence. It's an insult to the discussion that's going on between the UK and Scotland. It's just not acceptable, really. So that is ran over a little bit. That is my
contender. That's your contender.
I think that's my contender. So
very good. So something terrific
from a few coming in here. Oh, yeah. Kevin Fraser says SNP are creating their own never-ending story.
A beautiful comment.
But it's quite good. It sounds good. And yes, we've got. There's a lot of comments today.
Send Blotford to the border.
Absolutely. Let's get him there.
There's too many woke left-wing people now in journalism.
So that's the thing. No cakes allowed. If there was a cake war, then Blackford would win. So
he's the general.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, between Boris and Blackford, it's a really big thing. It's who actually ate all the pies?
Like Rommel and
that was one of these things. And this is me indulging in cruel fat shaming of the
very cruel, Mark.
It's shocking. I'm ashamed.
Well, I did the same thing.
As you should be.
I'll fess up. I did the same thing. People said, there are audible groans in the chamber when Ian Blackford gets to his feet. No, that's not audible groans. That's the floorboards creaking when he gets up. That's what that is, guys. Believe me. The ancient floorboards can't take the man's weight. So fat shaming. Sorry about that, Bunter, old chap.
Yeah. Oh well, it's one of these things. You're in the heat of thing. I personally don't indulge in those type of things. It's it's hard enough being Bunter, you call Bunter there. It's hard enough being Blackford without without the rest along with
But
it.
it shows you how bad the political discourse is, that we're actually resulting to fat jokes. I mean, come on, it's there's almost we're talking about incursions into Ukraine, and all we can talk about is cake. It is it's pathetic.
That's actually, I think
Pathetic.
that is a very, very good point. We have a lot of serious issues in front of us, and people are talking about bringing having a wine at a work party, or for people who are working all together all the time. So we still await the result of the Sue Gray report, and we'll see what happens there. That'll be next week, maybe a topic of discussion that we have for next week. I think we're close to the end now, so what I'd like to wrap up. What about the Zoomer? Who do you think, David? You usually decide in the end.
Yeah, I think Nicola Sturgeon's too much of an easy target.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and Sean Clerkin, I think, is too insignificant. So I'm going to give it to. I'm going to suggest we give it to the writer from the Times, because really we've had enough, frankly, of these people appeasing the nationalists with all their craven articles. I'm sick of reading stuff by Kenny whatever his name is, Farquharson, Alex Massey, this young woman now. I don't want to read any more of this nonsense about how Scotland can play a bigger role in the world and the SNP will single-handedly deliver, peace, truth and happiness. No, they won't. So can we just stop talking about this stuff, please? So I would suggest Fiona gets the nod this week.
I would agree with that as well, David. What I do think we do need, though, I think we need a graphic in order to tally who gets the Zoomer of the week. We need to tally them to find out who's the Zoomer of the year. Because obviously at the end of this year, we'll be recapping the entire year.
Ones, which is definitely coming. I think that...
Thank you, Dennis Matheson, incidentally. Thank you for that.
What we should be doing is sending an email to whoever is Zoomer of the week with a little thing. Congratulations, you won
with the link to the podcast.
Very good point. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Larry Flint, who was the publisher of, I think it was Hustler magazine, and he was the subject of that famous film, Who Killed Larry Flint, I think it was called. When Kenneth Starr produced his expose of Bill Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky, at the end of the year, Larry Flint sent Kenneth Starr a prize for being pornographer of the year. I really liked that. I thought that was a great touch. So yeah, we could send one of these guys, one of these journalist ones, for being comic writer of the year or something. Maybe something like that.
Yeah,
ridicule.
Something like that. Or even better, if you're watching this and you see them on Twitter, please point them to the podcast and they can see it for themselves.
Here.
Oh, great work there, guys. Thank you, David. Thank you, Naill, for appearing today.
And Jamie as well, don't forget.
Yes, indeed. Great to see Jamie. Yeah.
It was very good to see Jamie, and thank you all for your contributions, for your comments. Lots of comments today. I think this is the most we've had. I think the most viewers as well. So we're building up, and we're building up thanks to you for watching. Please tell your friends about us. Like, share, comment, do whatever you can. Everything helps, even if it's the smallest action. It's something about raindrops.
Butterfly flaps its wings.
Yes, that type of thing. Everything counts and makes us stronger in our fight against vile, ugly, divisive and selfish Scottish nationalism. So I'd like to say that we'll see you all next week at 7 p.m, same time, and hopefully we'll have a new guests online as well. I thank you all for watching and have a great night.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening.
Good night, guys. Thanks very much, guys. Good night.